Welcome to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. Here we talk about all things franchising. What is it all about? Is it for you? How do you find the best one to own? And so much more. Now your host, Tim Parmeter.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. I'm Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach, and your podcast host. Today marks episode number 100. I should have a cake with some candles or something, but then I would just eat all the cake, and that's not going to be helpful. Balloon stream or something. We have none of those things, but we have I'm a little excited and a little nervous about this one. So we have somebody coming in to take over the show, Liane Caruso, who now will be on her 4th episode, 3 as a guest and 1 as a guest host. She's the Vice President of Franchising for Entrepreneur Media, Entrepreneur Magazine, Entrepreneur.com, and she's going to interview me. And we have another guest coming on a little bit later to kind of tie this all in. So buckle up. We'll get back to our regular scheduled programming next week, but definitely just kind of I'm excited to share this with me, a little bit with my family. We talk to clients and franchisors about their journey and their brands. I've had several people here of late, kind of like, don't talk about me, and that's not a particularly comfortable thing. So Liane's going to get me out of my comfort zone with that today, but that's what we got going. So thanks for tuning in, and here's Liane running the show.
All right, Tim, this is Liane Caruso. I'm the SVP of Franchise at Entrepreneur Media, and I thought it would be a really fun idea if we turn the tables on Tim's podcast and got to learn more about Tim. He is the founder and CEO of FranCoach and podcast host of this amazing podcast for prospective franchisees called Franchising 101. And I think one of the things that we miss along the way is the opportunity to really get to know Tim. Buying a franchise and buying a business is a very personal endeavor and takes a lot of trust to build a relationship with somebody to help you find that perfect match for you. So I think a lot of times in Tim's journeys, and I'm speaking for him totally right now, that people always say, "What's your story?" And so I think today is a great day to find out, hey, Tim, what's your story?
Well, gee, Liane, thanks for having me on a guest on my podcast. I greatly appreciate that. And
my pleasure.
You talked about how this was going to be fun. I'm not sure for who. But normally when people say, "What's your story?" my direct answer is, the incredibly juvenile Nunya. But I guess to celebrate our 100th episode of this crazy thing, and you've been badgering me about this for a while, and believe it or not, I've had some other listeners that have kind of said that a couple of times, like, "You always talk about FranCoach and franchising, never about you." I'm like, yes, correct. That's kind of how that works. So thanks so much for having me on. Was there a question in there? I just started kind of nervous rambling. So
yeah, you don't know how to be on the other side of this, but
no, my control issues are kicking in pretty heavily right now. So how may I help you? Ask away.
I think you're going to do great, Tim. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the real crux of all of this is just learning who you are. And so because you are so knowledgeable in franchising, and I think it's important to understand, your background and how you actually got into franchising, because it hasn't always been a path direct to franchising. So tell us a little bit about your background and, where you started and how you kind of fell into franchising, as most of us do.
Yeah, well, I think it all really stemmed back to, when I was a kid, there was this big wheel race I was in one time at the local mall. And I won, and I got interviewed on the radio, and it really set me on this path of the podcast. So that was my first taste at this. So that's weirdly kind of a true story. But long before franchising, because I'm stinking old, I grew up. I was an athlete, played basketball through college. I coached for a number of years, teacher, coach, and that really, I think, formulated my brain, my existence. I had a less than wonderful 7 or 8 years in the corporate world that shattered a lot of IQ points along the way. And I think like so many of the people that we work with that have been in the corporate world that have had a bad experience, their last job ended at, no fault of their own. That was my last corporate job, was the people in charge of the office, like, won't go into great detail, but they did some things that got the whole office shut down. And so the rest of us were stuck. I had and we may or may not get a visit from him in the other room, at a little baby at the time. Or he was a year and a half, I guess. And we were kind of plotting co-parenting things, which everybody that does the co-parenting, you know how fun that can be, and trying to figure out, well, I've always wanted to work for myself, but didn't know how, which probably sounds familiar to a lot of people, and needed flexibility, freedom, control, all of those things, so I could try to be a moderately decent parent when I had the opportunity. And so I just happened to stumble on this franchising thing. Didn't know the first dang thing about franchising when I got started. Some might argue I still don't know the first thing about it, but at least I'm better at faking it now after 7.5 years. And really didn't know what I was doing. And I was like probably not in the best place of my life. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm starting out basically, I don't know anything, and trying to figure it all out from scratch and grinding away at it. And like with any business, when you're starting, especially when you're starting it from scratch by yourself, it was tough, right? There were some hard. In fact, I have a thing on my wall that I kind of sketched out when I first got started that's really helped me keep going. And it's just the words or letters THTW. This has to work. Because I was having a day where I was about to have a breakdown, which is a really awesome thing to do, right? And so I'm like, you can't quit. I can't quit. This has to work. And I literally just had it taped up on the wall. And now it's turned into a $3 frame I probably got from Walmart, right? But it still is that reminder of like, this has to work. And because I don't feel like I had any choice for me, for my son. And then just by pure and utter dumb luck, this has turned into the best dang thing I've ever done. And I can't imagine doing anything else. So and I think a lot of people have that experience in franchising that we talk to. And it's actually the first question I always ask people on the show is like, how did you get into this? And it's almost always some roundabout, crazy, dumb luck thing. And then you get in and then you never, ever get out. So that's mine. And kind of the last thing when it comes to FranCoach is that education background, teacher coach, right? And that's how my brain works. So it's how we really kind of formulated the core of our business is education. The folks listening, our clients, they don't know much of anything about franchising. So let's educate you on that. What's it all about? What are the opportunities? Because it's this massive world that nobody knows anything about. It's not for everybody, or it's not for everybody right now. That's okay. But it's usually significantly more attainable and more possible than people realize. They just don't know where to go for it. So that kind of all kind of shaped everything and brought us to here. So there you go.
Yeah. I love how your past kind of, propelled you into your future, but you really kind of stuck with the brand. Like you said, the education. So you've got FranCoach, you've got Franchising 101. It's all of the things that you know how to do best and educate people who might not necessarily know what they need right now or understand franchising or what to expect. And that's kind of really where, you thrive is in the education space. And that's one of the most critical parts of franchising, right? Is just understanding what franchising is and how it can potentially change your life. So I love that. So what's the first thing in franchising that you did? You said you fell into it and, this has to work, which I might start using forever and ever. Thank you for that. I love that. So what is the first thing that had to work in order to?
It was this, right? The kind of the coaching consulting thing. It was, in a slightly more or less formal setting, right? And kind of was under somebody's wing for maybe 6 months or so. And then really like they're, basically run along, right. And created this. So yeah. And fortunately, I think I was able to, and all of these things kind of help me when we're working with our clients is like people get so caught up in industry, right? In the corporate world. This is what I was in a higher ed, right? And I was a basketball coach. And I always tell the story. I remember going for an interview for like a sales manager position at some whatever crap company somewhere, right? And sitting in this little bitty teeny tiny room with some like typical HR/librarian person that was sitting there. And the job description you had to have 2 years of management experience, right? And my last job, or the job I was looking at, I'd been like 1 year, 10 months, right? As a manager at that position. And the lady, as I'm in her, she's like, well, this position requires 2 years management experience. I'm like, yeah. I was like, she says, well, we only have, and you can see her doing the math. She's like, 1 year, 10 months. I'm like, at that job. And she starts looking through it. I'm like, I was a college basketball coach for 10 years, right? And she looks at me dumbfounded. I'm like, because it wasn't whatever that product was, right? She couldn't, like, I managed staff, managed the entire team, managed a $500,000 budget, you start rattling all that off. And there was just like, there was nothing, right? There was no registration of what that was or how that equated. And she's like, but you only have 1 year, 10 months of management experience, right? I'm like, and I literally just got up and left, right? This is not going anywhere. But because it was not the same industry, right? Mm-hmm. And so what has helped me have any level of success doing this is I had to kind of really realize this is, what am I good at? Well, I like being able to find the people to talk to. Like I actually kind of enjoy that. And being able to help basically people figure out what the same path, what are they good at, right? Don't worry about what industry you've done, because and we talk about this a lot on the podcast, it's the get out of bed test. You got to get out of bed. You got to go do it, right? The industry you're in, you weren't the doer in there. You were the VP or the director or blah, 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 blah. What are those things and what do you want that to look like? And so all of those things from my past, mind you, by dumb luck, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, these are the couple of things that I'm pretty good at and that more importantly, that I enjoy doing. I can actually really build a business with this. And for me, get the bonus of being able to help people along the way, which again, education, teaching, coaching, right? It's some way, shape, or form. You're teaching, you're helping, you're making a difference in people's lives, right? It's the cheesy teacher thing. If I could just help one student this year, well, the same thing. If we can help one client that's listening and that hates their job or wants something more or secondary income stream, if we can kind of point them on the right path, then that's awesome. We've done our job.
So not only do you talk the talk, but you walk the walk, and you are a franchisee yourself. So seeing all of the brands that you see and the work that you do, and I know that you have relationships with hundreds and hundreds of them, and you've seen, I always say, peel back the layers of the onion of all the brands. So you've decided to become a franchisee yourself with multiple brands. What do you look for in a brand that makes you, that kind of makes it click for you? That's something that you want to invest in and add to your portfolio.
Well, clearly I want to find the one franchise out there where you have to do nothing and you just automatically make millions of dollars, right? So right. I knew the secret one.
We're all
right?
looking for that one.
Yeah, sorry, I can't tell you. No, I think, and what's funny is the one that, and I know we've got somebody joining us here a little bit later that we want to get to, but wasn't really on our radar. We had kind of like identified another niche that we wanted to get into. Which again is so silly between like, because and we had the same experience, like what I would tell you, or me more than her, right? But like they say, doctors make terrible patients. Well, franchise consultants make terrible candidates going through the process, because I'm awful in there, right? Every little bit of fear that bubbles up, the questioning, the cynicism, all of those things are just like hit me multiple times going through there. And then the same thing, it's like, we're always like, hey, we think this is our path, right? For our next thing to own. Well, you can't force this thing. It was just an opportunity that kind of just, again, I think my whole life has been dumb luck, right? And just like things just kind of pop in front of you. And so it was a great opportunity. But hit things that we liked, right? Like obviously for us, we have to be very semi-absentee with this. Mm-hmm. Managing a manager that can really take ownership in there and have a little bit more of a skilled, passionate staff versus things are a little bit more unskilled for us anyway. Then it's not for, again, this is not for everybody, but for us, what we realized, those were key things. And again, the thing just happened to pop in our lap and often running with it, depending on the day. I mean, we're only a couple months into this. So depending on the day, I had a full head of hair 2 months ago when we started. I've pulled it all out. So no, but it's amazing, but it's where I can always speak to. I've done this long enough. I know how people are going to kind of react in those little pucker moments along the way, because I've seen people do it throughout the time, but I've done it as well. Right. And again, that's the piece that we want to help people realize is, what are you really good at? The type of people you want to be around, what's going to drive you. And that for us wasn't that we were actually seeking it out per se. It just kind of checked the boxes, and here we go. I mean, come back in 50 more episodes and see how we're doing with that.
You have no more hair to lose. I mean,
no, it's been gone for a while. So, which, by the way, is going to come up later. I guarantee it with our other guests. So
I'm
just
sure it will.
We'll
everybody just prep themselves now.
Yeah, let's make it, because this is going to turn into make fun of Tim pretty quickly. So
pretty quickly. Well, we'll roll into that in a few minutes. But just finally, when someone finds you, they find you generally, probably through Google search or your podcast. Perhaps your website or a referral from somebody. So when they find you and they don't really know what to do, your service is free through and through. And I'm not trying to make this commercial, but your service is free. And I think that that's something that people often misunderstand. But what can they expect? Because again, like I said in the beginning, it's an emotional decision. It's a personal decision. It's a huge financial commitment. So not to you, but to franchising. But right. So what can they expect from you when they find you, so that they know that this is a good way? It's almost like finding a real estate agent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think and that's a good analogy because yes, there's Zillow, right? Or whatever. We can do those things from a housing standpoint, but I don't think people realize there are folks like us that can help them with that entrepreneurial side, right? And so first off is like, just congratulations on you've taken that first step towards your better tomorrow. See, I will work that in everybody. There's a handful of people that get on me saying that that's cheesy, because I like to say that at the end of our podcast, but that's what this is. And so that first step that's scary. Right. And when we get into looking at franchises, I'm all about like cheesy analogies. And I always think about it from a dating perspective. Like if you're like totally single and not dating and you're like, oh, I should get back to start dating again. Like just taking that step of like opening yourself up, that can be scary. Right. I'm sure most of us have been there. Right. And then the actual going out on a date. Like, I don't know, right? And that whole process of what that's going to look like, right, is like, just be open to it. And if there's any, and again, like I always like say on this, like you're listening to the Franchising 101 podcast. So let's be honest, there's some level of curiosity in, could this be for me? That's where just take that first step and start. Again, what's our whole thing is helping you learn about franchise ownership, right? And so it's really want to try to have that kind of like really just congratulations on the first step of just getting on the phone with us. But let's be open. Let's see if this is, and if not, you learn something new. We'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll have some fun along the way, right? But maybe it's not, and that's okay. At least it's not right now, but maybe it is, right? And so I really just want people to have that expectation of no expectation. Let's learn something new. Let's figure out. It's on your mind enough to at least wonder. Let's figure that out. And you made the comment like there's no fee for our service. And it could be a commercial, but wait, there's more, right? So the other people are like, well, we're in business, we have to make money, right? So we're compensated by the franchisors, right? So when somebody starts a franchise. So from my perspective, we don't care which franchise somebody starts. It's how do we get you what's best for you? And what's best for you is not going to be the same as the next person or the next person, right? And so it really allows, I think it just, hopefully anyway, it puts people at ease of like, we're not peddling snake oil. We're just going to help you learn something new. And again, learning something usually doesn't kill us. And maybe it completely changes your life, because franchising has done that for, literally thousands and thousands of people, right? So maybe you're the next one.
Yeah, it sounds like it's also a good free business therapy session for people to just lay on the couch and let Dr. Tim.
Yes, tell me about your mother. So now it is, and it's funny you say that, because I've told people when they're getting closer, when they're getting ready to start, I'm like, you got to make new friends, right? And you've got to find entrepreneurial friends. Our guest coming on here in a minute, and she and I have talked about this a lot with our friends, our families, and I'm sure you get this too. What do you do? What is it? I don't it's so hard to grasp or to understand. And as a business owner, right? Not that you won't have friends or family that will grasp it, but you've got to people will talk about, networking events or chambers or BNIs, and people think of that from getting referrals, which sure you can do. You're just talking to other business people, right? And it is, there's a little group therapy within that is helpful and very needed. It's the equivalent of the corporate water cooler, right?
Right.
You gotta go to it and kind of seek out those people, because there aren't nearly as many entrepreneurs out there as there are. And that's the 1%ers, right? You got to be able to kind of find yourself in that group.
Absolutely. Because they have an understanding that not everybody does. And if you don't have that network of support, it does become difficult. Totally hear that. So just kind of one final note here. Do you also help them with the financial piece of it? Because I know that's one of the biggest questions that people have, is understanding what is the financial commitment? How much money do I have to have? So I know you're not a banker or a lawyer, but how do you kind of help navigate that piece of it?
Typically, I drive the getaway car when we rob the bank.
Yeah.
So
just give me a piece of it.
Yeah. I crank up my 73 Pinto and I gun it, and we're off. So no, we have, almost 600 franchise partners. We've got a half dozen or so funding partners as well, that all they do are franchise funding. And so it's again, back to the housing thing. You think you want to buy a house, but you don't know if you can. Well, we know, let's go to the bank. Let's try to get pre-approved, right? And so we're going to help essentially with that, right? What are you capable of doing financially? What are you comfortable doing financially? Those are not always the same two things, right? And then how do we make that work? Is it an SBA loan? Is it a non-SBA? Ways to use retirement. Pretty much nobody knows that's a pathway, right? And there are probably 2 or 3 other things that we can tap into as well. But it's not, people see, and again, on entrepreneur.com, franchising 500, what's number one? It's friggin' Taco Bell and $2.5 million, right? Mm-hmm. Don't let that scare you, because most of the things you could take off a zero from that, get us to 250, and most of the things are even under that for a total investment, right? That if you had the equivalent of putting a small down payment on your, oh, that's a cute little starter home. If you can do that financially, we're going to have franchise options. And again, all part of what we're going to do is, again, what can you do? What are you comfortable with? Who do we connect you that's all they do are those funding options?
That's great. All right. Well, I think that's about it for this part of the show. We've kind of talked about and alluded somebody else other than your son, who may or may not just show his face. But your son is how old is he now? 10?
Just turned 9.
Just turned 9. And so that story when he was a baby and you're trying to figure out how to make it work, and you just have to make it work. So he's just turned 9. And then oftentimes in franchising, we refer to all of our colleagues and friends as franchise family. And so you guys have taken that even just a step further. So
Yes.
tell us about your latest addition to your family.
Is there
Don't
one?
sigh really big.
Well, it's okay because she doesn't listen to the podcast. It's totally fine. So, no, so well, it was October. I officially got married, and to my amazing, fantastic, best ever, most beautiful, amazing, talented, smart woman ever. That part's definitely not getting edited out. Maybe that's the trailer, right?
Right.
So, and we met in franchising. She's actually been in the industry longer than me. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what her version of the story is. But there's a big old story how we met, and then we reconnected later, and then I basically stalked her until she married me. So there you go.
What a love story.
So yeah, no, we met at a conference 6 years or so, but just kind of like briefly, just, you're at a conference and you're meeting everybody, right? Hi, how are you? Right. Blah, blah, blah. And she was easy to remember because she was working for a brand that had a pretty hideous shade of green.
She was wearing a green skirt because I don't know if you know this, I also met her for the first time at that conference.
The same one, right? Because you were in the back of that. Yeah. So let's sing It's a Small World after all now, right? So and because she's all about marketing, right? Go figure what her business is now, right? So wearing the green skirt, and she also had an orange one too, but she had braces at the time, and she even had the little bands or whatever, were like this. I'm like, you're going all out, girl. If you're putting the bands in there, imagine the color of the brand you're repping. And then just kind of didn't really talk after that, right? Until 3 years later at another conference, and I was talking with a really good friend of mine, ironically talking about dating, which I had just kind of stuck my toe back in the water on that. And he was a happily and lengthy married owner or married man that had just become empty nesters. So I think he was kind of living vicariously through, dating stories. Tell me more. And they all pretty much suck, right? And so, or they're lies, one of the two. And so out of the corner of my eye comes all of a sudden, here's this woman I haven't seen in 3 years. And I turned, and for reasons that defy logic, I said to her, hey, my gosh, I've had a crush on you for 3 years. And my friend across the way, standing next to me, he's literally as short as just drop. He's like, you just felt like he was going to call his wife immediately. Hi, honey, I miss you. I love you. Right. Any thought of going back into the dating world was gone after that performance. Right. But then 3 years after that, we got married, basically the exact same resort we were at for the conference. And we got married and have a unique relationship in that she lives down the street from you in the Tampa, Florida area, full time. I'm in Arizona half the time when I got kiddo, and then the other half of the time I am out there, and which is a situation that we get one of two responses: either people like, oh, how does that work, right? So the judgment is just oozing from them, right? Mm-hmm. Or you get the people going, how did you pull that off? That sounds awesome.
That's great.
So
I'm in that camp.
So it's one or the other for that, but she hasn't wised up and realized that I outkicked my coverage a couple times over, but here we are. So it's like that cheesiness of franchising, the whole life changer thing, and at the IFPG International Franchise Professional Group conference last year, which is where we had met, they've got a monthly magazine that was literally like a life-changing article. And they ask us to be in there based on, it's not just helping our clients or our candidates or whatever achieve their dreams. We've been able to kind of do that ourselves. So it's kind of, it's kind of cool, I guess.
That's great. Well, I love your love story. And, I'll ask her the same question on how you guys met, and for everyone who doesn't know yet, her name is Danielle. She does have a name.
Wait, can you say that again? What was it again? Danielle, right? Let me read that.
DAN. It's not hey you.
No.
Yeah. So we'll bring Danielle on in a second. You guys have a new blended family, and I think it's lovely how you guys are making it work and doing all the great things that you both do in franchising. So lastly, before I set you free and you can take a big sigh of relief, but I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and then I'm going to ask Danielle a series of questions and see how you guys do. It's kind of like a newlywed / franchising game.
Newlywed, franchise wed. And yeah, so, and as I told you before, like I'm the one that pays our amazing producer. So
right.
something needs to get edited out.
You can edit.
So you can ask whatever you want.
Edit
it may
in your
end
favor.
up, may not. Totally fine.
All right.
Fire away there, host.
Right. We'll see. Okay. So Tim, how many years have you been in franchising?
7.5.
How many years has Danielle been in franchising?
11.
Add them together.
You didn't tell me there's going to be math involved. Carry the 3. That would be 18.5.
Sure. Correct. What is Danielle's favorite color?
Pink. That's totally wrong, but I'm going.
You're not going to go with green, the color of the skirt you remember when you met her? No. I mean, I don't know the answer, but you say pink.
No, yeah, I don't.
Pink's your final answer.
Yes. And if it's correct, then let's just all say that I said it with a great deal of conviction.
Okay. All right. And what's your favorite?
I'm going with pink because of flamingos. She has a thing for flamingos.
Oh, she does. Okay. So, fair.
Yeah.
It's a fair guess. What's your favorite color? Just so I know for future reference.
I'm going to go with FranCoach Blue.
FranCoach Blue. Very good. Okay. And what is your favorite number?
32.
What is Danielle's favorite number?
There's not a chance in hell she's got an answer to that. That's my answer.
I figured you would have a number just because the coach theme. So I figured you had.
Yeah, that was my basketball number. Yeah, and if you want to hack a password, there's a good chance there's a 32 in it, right? So hold on, change passwords.
Yeah, exactly. We're figuring out your passwords. That's all we're doing right now. And if anybody,
no way, she's got an answer to that.
Okay, all right. And if people want to find your podcast, where would they find it?
That's a great question, Liane. I'm very glad you asked. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor. Yeah, there's like 13 of them.
And what's the name of your podcast?
That would be the Franchising 101 podcast.
And what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Come to Pima, Arizona. So FranCoach.net is our website, and Franchising101podcast.net. Why .net? Because I was a basketball guy and it's nothing but net. So there you go.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Or was FranCoach.com not available?
Well, that too. But the story is better.
That's a much better story. All right. On that note, let's bring in Danielle.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. And magically, we have a new guest who's joined the podcast today. And this is the podcast where we've turned the tables and interviewing Tim to find out about his story. And part of his very big story is this beautiful and lovely, smart, intelligent, fabulous woman, Danielle Wright, who just joined the podcast. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So great to see you. We were just talking about pretty much a You're the Brains station. So just wanted to know a little bit about your story. I just asked him a bunch of questions, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer the same ones. Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. But first, just tell us about you, tell us about your story and how, we also just talked about how people just kind of fall into franchising and, what's your journey to get here where we are?
Yikes. Do we have 2 hours? Because that's a long journey.
All right. Cliff Notes version.
Cliff Notes version. So I started in commercial real estate straight out of college, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but I had this fancy dancy degree. Recession hits Residential takes a hit, commercial follows shortly thereafter, and now you got to figure out what do I do? I took a job, a W-2 job, like most of the people we talk to, at a large franchise based here in Tampa, Florida, where I live, and just kind of put myself in the deep end of the pool. I was then moved around to different departments, kind of got put into franchise sales. Speed up through the next 12 years, I'm here running my own consulting business, helping franchisors kind of create their processes to find the right franchise owners in their system, help with marketing, advertising, really try to make sure that they're growing in a sustainable fashion. But I've taken years of sales experience being on the front end and kind of applying it out there for micro emerging and emerging concepts to kind of grow into the future. Along that journey, I met Mr. Tim Parmeter, which I'm sure you guys heard that story. If not, that's totally a fun one. Because let's be clear, 5-6 years ago, he wasn't this dashing and handsome. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, that's my journey. I've been in a lot of different sectors of franchising: food, retail, fitness. Haven't been too many industries that I haven't had some type of experience with. And then we are equally franchise owners on the other side, because as if we don't have enough franchising in our life, we thought we'd bring it into our everyday too. So that's it.
Yeah. So you have a typical story where you had a job and then you tried to figure out what to do next and look for that flexibility and security, but also being able to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. And so I love that you ended up finding franchising. So with that, and I asked him the same question, but because you've been on both sides of the coin, what do you look for when you're exploring a franchise opportunity? Like, what, having seen the back ends of these franchises and seeing the guts and the glory, what helps you decide what's a good fit for you and your family?
Funny enough, I kind of just jump in. I am probably a little different than some of the people that are listening to this, right? Like, I take a little bit of a risk. I'm a figure it out kind of person. I think Tim and I talk about that a lot these days. Is the franchise is going to get you as far as it's going to get you, but then there's a piece of it that you're going to have to figure it out. So I look for a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but some flexibility, right? Like, here's the base, here's the model, but every market's different and you have to put your stamp on that. And I like businesses that allow you to do that. I also, I have an affinity for home service. We don't own home service businesses, which is hilarious because we have this affinity of guys and trucks businesses, but that's none of the ones that we own currently. But it's really being open to the possibilities. One of the brands that we own was not something that I thought we would have gotten into. After we got into it, it's yikes, but you make it work.
Right.
And I think that's what I look for is that the opportunity to kind of put my stamp on it and use my skills, and not be a royal, pain in the butt to the franchisor with a phone a friend every 5 seconds. So I like that kind of opportunity to be able to just say, hey, figure it out. Here you go. But here's a place to start, that kind of thing. So that's what I look for really when we jump into something. I'm a little bit more, let's do, and he's a little bit more, well, let's look at the numbers and let's look at the things. And I'm like, yeah, let's just give it a shot. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right.
Go. So yeah.
So you have that true entrepreneurial spirit, which a lot of prospective franchisees do. And then a lot of them are more risk averse. Is that right? A lot of them are. Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I still like a paycheck, right? Like, I still like to eat, and I like the lights on in my house and the Wi-Fi to work. That was a hard transition. Still is kind of hard, but my theories are I can always go back and get a job. I can't create more time in my life. It's a commodity that we can't afford to lose. But I can always get a job. Like, if it doesn't work, I can go get a job. It may not be a glamorous job, but I can always go get a job. So I live in the headspace of if I don't do it for me, no one else is going to do it for me. And I'll figure it out one way or another.
I love that. So the two of you together own how many franchises? Franchise?
3. We own 2 brands, but three businesses technically.
3 locations. And then you own a business called Create a Shift. And can you tell us a little bit about that and how that also supports the franchise industry as a whole?
Fun thing about that Create a Shift, everybody's looking to make one, right? Like, so it has legs. It started really as a support system for micro emerging franchises. What that means for anybody listening to this is we kind of coin those businesses that have become a franchise that either have 0 franchise owners up to maybe about 25 or 30. You're in that perpetual state of figuring it out. You know how to run an operation, but you're not really sure how to sell your franchise, find franchisees, have a process, all of those pieces. And on top of learning how to position your franchise to someone as a potential owner, you're also having to manage the operations side, keep your corporate units running, all of the things. There's so many things that we could go into detail here. So Create a Shift was really founded in this space of franchisors historically were taking franchise fees and not really applying them in the right places for a franchisee's success. So when you get to a certain level, and I think a lot of people on this podcast will hear this too, is you kind of cap yourself out at the executive space, and your income potential kind of caps there as well. But the opportunities are not as open in other organizations for you to bounce and try to elevate your pay, right? So Create a Shift thought that it should be founded on the space of giving top tier executive talent to these brands that may not necessarily afford to be able to put them on their payroll, but still have access to their history, their skills, their background, and their growth capabilities to take that micro brand to the next level, to that emerging space, to that sustaining space. But do that from I don't want to say part-time basis, but from a fractional space, right? So we started doing that from a friend dev lead generation perspective. Hey, I need people to come buy my franchise. Great. Do you know how to do that? No. Fantastic. We rolled into that kind of the franchise sales journey, helping them through creating a step-by-step process to take someone through learning about their franchise brand. And now it's kind of morphed itself into fractional CDO, fractional marketing people, sales people, just kind of coming in and building their systems for explosive growth in the future. We don't want to necessarily be their long-term strategy. We want to put people in place that are going to be a part of that organization long-term. So we're really shifting businesses or franchises to that next growth space. That is trademarked, by the way, so don't anyone go try to take it. But it's been a fun little journey thus far. The demand is much more than I thought it was going to be. But again, the figure it out piece is the driving factor. And I love helping these entrepreneurs take their great ideas and kind of expand them. Funny enough, we've kind of gone into a category with brands that shouldn't need that space, but they're looking to make changes in their development and their organization from a franchise perspective. They're not liking the quality of leads. They're not liking the absence of information. They need a lot of KPIs. So we jump in and give them the tools that they need to do that too. So there's not really much that Create a Shift can't do or won't do. But we are very particular, I'd say, in who we work with. We want to make sure that we're all headed down the same path. And I will use this soapbox moment to say there have been a lot of bad practices across the industry with a lot of excessive growth that is probably going to hurt us a little bit in the long term. So if we can help keep brands from doing that, then that's what we really want to do. So we want to shift franchising in a different direction.
I'm funny, right? you want to shift franchising in a different direction. He wants to coach and educate. And so I feel like you both have kind of found your calling in franchising, doing what you both love to do, and kind of truly supporting franchising industry as a whole. And I love the combination of the two of you. You're, not only are you devilishly good looking, but you're smart and you're funny and you're truly supportive of franchise candidates and helping with that education process and truly doing things the right way as opposed to fast and quick. So I love that. So before I go into the final questions for you, Danielle, do you guys have anything else you wanted to talk through or while you're together here without an argument?
I don't know. Hi, honey. How are you? How are you today?
Hi, dear. How are you?
I'm not sure I've talked to you. No, well, and like fun fact, Liane, when this actually episode drops, which is what the cool kids call it with the podcasts, is where are we going to be when this drops? We're going to be on a boat
that day.
Yes. Which means anybody that likes country music, that song's not going to be stuck in your head all day because I was on a boat that day. So no,
props to Old Dominion, right? Like that's who sings that, right? Yeah. Okay, great. See, that's my question back. Trivia.
Yeah, we'll pound sign it. No, hashtag, right? So,
oh my goodness.
It's a joke.
Your age is showing.
It's a joke. Hold on, let me turn my hearing aid up. Okay. No, Liane, thank you for, basically bullying me into this. And, Danielle, thanks for, I don't know, like letting me bully my way into you marrying me. So it's awesome.
I bullied you into starting this dad burn thing. So I at least needed to show up. Right. So it's like, all you need is a mic. You talk enough. You might as well publish it out there for everybody. So here we are today.
I know. And you can create shifts and I can help people create their better tomorrow.
Look at that.
But why? So,
franchising's power couple.
No, Liane, hold on. She can have create a shift, trademark it. It's the best thing ever. But you see that face. Does everybody see that face she makes with that? Liane, as the host, can you rule on this?
Hold on. And the marketer, the only person on this call that actually has a degree in that kind of stuff. Okay.
That doesn't count.
It does too. From one of the best schools out there, just gonna say.
That's right.
Truman State University. Go Bulldogs.
No, you're 2 against 1 right now.
Nope.
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
So are you going to ask her
I'm going to ask her questions and then I think we'll be done here. Franchising power couple.
Does she have to answer how we met? Or are you going to let that one slide?
No, let's
no,
do
because
it.
we'll have clips side by side of how her version is science fiction and mine is straight, pure fact. Please.
All right, Danielle, please.
Please, my gorgeous wife.
I got
the
this.
The floor is yours. I'm sorry. I'm not the host. My bad.
Please, Tim, you're not the host.
I'm going to mute myself.
Back there, buddy.
So, Danielle, please tell us how you and Tim met.
As if you were not coached into asking that question. First time we met, I was representing a franchise brand at a broker show. He was a broker, came to the booth, asked me questions about said franchise, and then cyber stalked me on LinkedIn for a while. He had hair back then. It was really creepy, not a good look. Fast forward a few years later, I meet him at another broker conference, not the same one, different one. And for those that don't know me here, I love those things. I bounce around, I talk to people. Liane could attest to all of these things. We'll probably do them in a couple of days. And I randomly run into a colleague of his, and that represents another brand. And Tim turns around and I'm like, I think I know you. Wasn't really sure because, no hair now. Like, totally makes the difference. And he goes, I've had a crush on you for like 6 years. I'm like, that's creepy. Like, I'm going to go. Talk to you later. Bye. And the rest is history from there. Like, I guess apparently it worked, or he seems to think it worked. I just thought it was weird and went and got another beverage and went on about my day. But sure, his version's a little different.
I mean, you're married now, right? So I would say that it worked. I'm going to rule on that one.
I guess.
I guess, right? Like, I mean,
maybe
now you're here. There's not really much we can do about it. So
the love is really shining through here.
Yeah.
All right,
there's no way anybody ever listens to this podcast ever again. If you are and you've made it this far, we promise we won't do this for another 100 episodes.
But it is quite funny. Like, it's the happy hour.
Well, I will say your stories were relatively similar. And what color skirt were you wearing when you met me?
The first time
Yeah.
was a green all the way. That's a whole nother story for another day, because people did not know my name in franchising. They just knew me as the girl in the green skirt.
What skirt were you wearing when I met you?
Green skirt.
That's right. That's right. But let's just put that as a testament to building a personal brand, and that you were memorable, and forever and ever. I will never forget the day that I met you, which was many years ago.
Oh, yay.
Yay. For more reasons.
Fashion plays in everything. If you don't have the right fashion, you're missing out. Plays in everything.
And if you don't have a bald head, you miss out on the hot girl.
Jokes.
So, but how crazy that and I don't know, you may have known this, the three of us all met the first time basically the same day.
I'm aware.
You were nodding. Nobody can hear the nod. I didn't know that you may have already been aware. I'm a little slow on the uptake. I'm going to go back to being quiet.
All right.
Rub the head, dear. Rub the head.
Okay. So Danielle, we'll go into the questions. Tim, don't give her any, I don't want any cheating here. All right. So how many years have you been in franchising?
13.
How many years has Tim been in franchising?
I know this one. Hold on. 6.
Add those together.
Why are you making me do math? That's not fun at all. Like,
people in franchising don't do math. We don't do math.
I know. It's like an adjustment, right? Like,
it's an earnings claim. We can't say that.
Like, ooh, why?
Hey, he had a fraction, so he managed to do it, and you didn't even do it without a fraction.
I went to the Harvard of the Midwest, so I don't know.
But I'm in sales. I'm not supposed to do math. That's an operations thing. I'm just supposed to tell you how great it is. Like, that's all.
Next question.
I just wanted to see your faces. All right. So, what is your favorite color, Danielle?
Ooh, today? I don't have just one. And I'm pretty sure if he said one, he doesn't know me. So it's either blue or green.
Okay. And what is Tim's favorite color?
Definitely blue. He wears it all the time. And I would say anything that has Adidas on it is totally up his alley. It could be any color.
It's not a color. Adidas.
Under Armour.
This podcast is not sponsored.
Under Armour there, but he's all about blue.
But it could be. It could. Please give us a call. We're open for sponsorship. Adidas, Under Armour, Nike, Puma, whatever.
Any of them. He will trade. All right. What is Tim's favorite number?
He has a favorite number.
He's a coach. Of course he does.
I have absolutely no clue. I know his series of numbers. I know that there are birthdays involved, but no, I don't know his favorite number.
He already changed his PIN number.
Yeah. How about this? Can you, without looking at your phone, what's my phone number?
Oh.
602-920-8401.
That only took how many years?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you find Tim if you want.
There you go. Thank you.
If you're looking to call him, there you go.
Well, my phone's ringing. Hold on. Hello?
Be sure to text him his favorite number so he knows.
And what is your favorite number, Danielle?
1,000,000. I don't have a number.
Nice. He answered that correctly. All right. Where can you find Tim's podcast?
On any of your favorite podcasting channels.
And what is the best way to get in touch with Tim?
By dialing that number I just spoke about.
And if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how did they get a hold of you?
They have to go down a really deep, deep hole.
To which there is no return.
No return. It's dark. It's dark
Right.
down there. Beware.
Just look for her on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right. Last question, Danielle. Well, what's your website? What's the name of your website?
Createashift.net. Not the bad word, but make sure there's an F and a T in there. Otherwise, you're going to get some stuff you can't unsee.
Okay. All right. And last question, Danielle. What does THTW mean?
This has to work.
Yes. All right. I'm going to close it on
Now
that
you're
one.
going to make me cry. Like, oh my God.
I love that.
We laughed, we cried. We
We
trademarked.
laugh some more.
Yeah.
Yep. We
And
podcasted.
and we never listened again. So thank you for listening to the last episode ever of the Franchising 101 podcast.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me do this, Tim and Danielle. This is a lot of fun. You can cut out whatever you want to cut out, but this has been great.
Yeah, no, we'll have probably like
Aw.
2 minutes at the beginning and 2 minutes at the end, and then that'll be it. No, thank you. And I like really, apparently I was the last person to realize this on this podcast. So we all met on the same day, and which is ironic because you are amazing in everything that you're doing with entrepreneur.com, which go there people too, because they are the thought leader in all things thought leadership, I think, right? But really from a franchising perspective as well. And the work that Liane, that you and your team are doing to bring more awareness and proper knowledge and education to people about franchising is amazing. Take a few tries to spell the word entrepreneur. There's no way I'm the only person that struggles with that, but definitely go there and
Spell check.
Been, I think for both of us, just an amazing friend. So thank you for kind of coming up with this idea. And then Danielle, thanks for, saying yes.
No, well, you're welcome. You'll live to regret it later, I'm sure. And anyone on here, spell Liane's name right, because Starbucks does it wrong every single time. So she's a beautiful human being, and her name should be spelled correctly every single time. So get on it. Hashtag LIANE. Go.
Yes. So awesome. Thank you,
All right.
Liane, for doing this. Thank you, Danielle, for coming on. Thanks for everybody. If anybody's still listening at this point, yeah, that's a wrap, as they say. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks for listening to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast, where our ultimate goal is to help educate you on all things franchising so you can create your better tomorrow.